Welcome to the dish for August 11th, 2025. 15 minutes of curated insights and intelligence for federal contracting stakeholders. I'm Go-To-Guy Timberlake of the ASBC, and I can talk today. And today we're serving up three essential changes from GSA's legislative package that directly impact small businesses. First, GSA's rebranding exercise, that is, rebranding their standard as best value. Then, raising micro purchase limits while ignoring the fact that they imposed $1 purchase card restrictions. Finally, simplified acquisition threshold increases that sound helpful, but will actually decimate small business opportunities. You heard me. Plus, in our worth noting segment, unnecessary deviation. Are you ready to be served? Folks, in segment one, we start with GSA's effort to bring their flagship contracting program into the 21st century. So what is it? Well, GSA's legislative proposal, Section 11, providing best value through multiple award schedules program, would update the 1984 statutory standard that currently requires mass contracts and orders to result in the lowest overall cost alternative. Now, the proposal replaces this with plain language best value standard defined by FAR 2.101 as the expected outcome of an acquisition that, in the government's estimation, provides the greatest overall benefit in response to the requirement. This change would align civilian procurement with congressional mandates that emphasize best value over price alone and reflect how ordering activities actually use the MAS program today. Now, why does this matter? Well, the current lowest overall cost alternative standard is frequently equated with lowest price, creating confusion. According to a recent Federal News Network piece, GSA seeks to replace outdated procurement standards with a clearer best value benchmark for the MAS program, which accounted for more than $51 billion in fiscal year 2024. The current pricing procedures cost $130 million annually in reporting burdens and creates barriers for small businesses entering the federal marketplace. Here's what you need to know. This change expands opportunities for small businesses by allowing positioning on technical capabilities and value-added services rather than competing solely on price. GSA aims to modernize technology platforms while reducing administrative burdens. However, over 80% of GSA scheduled contractors are already small businesses. So this optimizes an existing channel rather than creating new opportunities. A little bit of a head fake there. Folks, this episode of The Dish is brought to you by our 2025-2026 coalition partner, IT Availability. They're a mission-focused information technology firm led by former senior technology executives from the U.S. intelligence community. Their technical professionals excel at implementing new technology, mitigating cyber risk, and ensuring data integrity. With experts spanning satellite and terrestrial communications, network operations, cybersecurity, software development, and data center services, IT Availability brings deep understanding of IC customers' mission needs and delivers real solutions for meaningful outcomes. Learn more about them online at itavailability.com. Folks, in our second segment, we're going to take a look at, the transformation in how agencies will handle their smallest purchases while preserving America First policies. Ready? So GSA's Section 2 proposal, common sense procedures for small purchases, would raise the micro purchase threshold from $10,000 currently to $100,000 over 5 years, with interim increases to $25,000 through September 2027, then $50,000 through September 2030. Now, critically, the proposal decouples the micro purchase threshold from the Buy American Act, establishing a permanent $10,000 Buy American Act applicability threshold. This means micro purchases above $10,000 would remain subject to domestic sourcing requirements, but agencies could make directed purchases without competitive procedures if they're buying from sources offering domestic end products and construction materials. Why does this matter? According to a recent Federal News Network article, this change could streamline over 500,000 transactions annually, significantly reducing the workload on contracting officials. Now, micro purchases follow commercial practices with minimal government requirements, allowing same day acquisitions through purchase cards with faster payment cycles, inherently beneficial to small businesses since most federal contracting burdens don't apply. Of course, this only works if the administration reinstates the tens of thousands of cardholder P card limits to more than $1. Oh, and that only matters if those cardholders are actually still there. I'm thinking we have a little pickle situation here, so stay tuned. What do you need to know? This benefits small businesses offering Buy American Act compliant products through streamlined purchases up to $100,000. Now, those BAA requirements above $10,000, agencies can make direct purchases from domestic suppliers without normal competitive procedures. That means small businesses must ensure compliance with Buy American Act and prepare for increased demand as agencies gain purchasing flexibility if there's anyone there to do the buys. Remember, most purchase cards are not held previously by contracting officers simply because there's more of other folk than there are contracting officials. Just saying. Hey, gang. Today's episode of the Dish is also brought to us by our coalition partner, Global Services. They are helping achieve federal proposal success for government contractors for more than 25 years. They've actually helped over 3,000 businesses earn more than $25 billion in contracts. As a small business themselves, Global Services understands your unique challenges and makes the proposal process efficient, transparent, and approachable. Their mission, technically proficient, customer-focused proposal development that creates success stories for every client. Learn more about them and my friend Courtney Fairchild at globalservicesinc.com. All right, folks, we're going to dig into one now that I might get a little bit snarky about, and most of you that know me will understand why. So our final segment covers a significant threat to small business federal procurement. What is it? Section 1 of GSA's proposal, streamlining compliance and competition procedural requirements, would dramatically increase the simplified acquisition threshold for commercial products and services from $250,000 to $10 million over 5 years. Now, that's the lipstick on the pig, folks. This phase-in includes $2 million through September 27, $5 million through September 2030, and then $10 million thereafter. Now understand, simplified acquisitions are inherently better than schedules. Sorry, Courtney, because they're not limited to just commercial goods and services. They can go beyond that. So this proposal's only addressing the commercial aspect of that. Now, the proposal simultaneously raises special simplified procedure thresholds from $5 million to $50 million. That's the one that was a test program for so long that if the contracting officer determines that what they're going to buy is mostly or entirely commercial goods and services, they can make an exception and go above the traditional SAT. And so here's the deal. The legislative text notes that all contracts above $250,000 are currently treated the same from competition and compliance perspectives, whether they're $500,000 or several $1 billion. Here's why this matters. The proposal states that raising the SAT to $10 million for commercial acquisitions could make up to an additional 14.6% of spend eligible for the relief provided by the SAT. This translates to over 100,000 federal transactions being subject to less government unique compliance burden. According to a recent Federal News Network interview, the goal is to reduce administrative burden, promote efficiency, and maintain competitive integrity. However, this dramatically shrinks the statutory small business set-aside pool and eliminates protections that have existed since 1994. Here's what you need to know. Just as FAST intended in 1994, that's the Federal Acquisition Streamlining Act for those that are too young to remember it, this can help reduce cost and time for government and industry. However, there's a significant small business impact that contradicts FAR 13.002B. That's the purpose of the Simplified Acquisition Procedures, to improve opportunities for small business concerns to obtain a fair proportion of government contracts. This proposal eliminates the small business reservation link to the Simplified Acquisition Threshold, fixing it permanently at $250,000. So that sounds like we don't lose anything, right? Wrong. Combine this with the fact that they want to increase the micro purchase threshold to $100,000. That means the statutory small business set-aside pool shrinks dramatically from $10,000 to $250,000 down to just $100,000 to $250,000. Remember, micro purchases are not set aside or reserved for small business. So that's $90,000 per contract action lost to mandatory set-asides, or as much as $18 billion of the $28 billion that was obligated this way last fiscal year. This is going to be another crippling blow to small business concerns by this administration's disregard for the engine of our nation's economy. So, how much more innovation, jobs, and economic growth will be lost? Inquiring minds need to know. Folks, this episode of The Dish is also brought to you by When Go-To-Guy Speaks. Now, this is the source for keeping up with my online and in-person engagements when I'm doing ethical stalking for government contractors and getting fed programs. In fact, this September, you can catch me at 3 major events. That includes the 2025 Veteran Social Summit on September 13th, the APMP Mission 2025 ADAPT Conference online on September 18th, and live in person from Atlanta at the Military Influencer Conference, or MIC 2025, in Atlanta, September 21st through 24th. For details on those topics and dates, you can visit online speakingof.guytimberlake.com. Okay, folks, so too often overlooked are the people and organizations making a difference without making the headlines. We think they're worth noting, so we created a segment called just that. So before we wrap up this edition of The Dish, we're going to take, a little deviation from the norm on how we normally talk about worth noting. I think you'll understand why. As I mentioned earlier, in segment 3, there is a proposed change coming to the Simplified Acquisition Threshold. Now, what's worth noting is that an element of federal acquisition that's been hallowed ground for small business concerns since 1994 is literally about to get decimated. I know this segment is supposed to be about positive differences being made by those in federal contracting, but unfortunately, this will positively decrease opportunities and dollars to tens of thousands of small businesses, their families, and their communities if this proposed language goes through. Simplified acquisitions total nearly $30 billion in obligations last fiscal year, with small businesses capturing about 60% of that spend. That number is going to drop dramatically if this change goes through. Again, losing $90,000 per contract action. Folks, I normally avoid this, but I'm going to tell you, this is the time to get on the phones, to get in person with your elected officials. Let them know what's about to happen to the communities that elected them. This is going to hit all of them in their backyards. So, on the normal worth noting, I'll say this. If you know someone doing exceptional work in GovCon, send us their story. You can email it to us at thedish@theaspc.org. We want to know about good people in the GovCon community making a difference for all the right reasons. Folks, that's the dish for this week. Remember, in federal contracting, it's not the spectators, but the companies on the field like yours that need to get shit done to stay ahead of the intelligence curve. Use what we just served up, take action, and we'll be back next week with another 15-minute serving of insights to nourish your brain. I'm Go-To-Guy Timberlake, and this has been your latest serving of The Dish.